All right. We are live. Let's get this going. So, if you watched the video from yesterday, we were working on this page right here. Page 1. So, I wanted to point out that I've got this normally on page 1s of stories that I do. I've got a big title going over the top of it. We don't know where this story is going. I've got no idea. I've got a few possibilities, but it's going to be a day-to-day thing. So I am leaving this blank until the story is finished, and then I'll figure out what the title is, and I'll go back and I'm going to add that. But on yesterday's video, I pretty much got this first panel done, and then last night I got home from work and I was up till 3 something in the morning, and I went ahead and finished the rest of this out just to get it done. So I added some of these Zipatone tones here. You can see on their pants, and in the Pizza on Dad's shirt, and the side of this mountain. I got these pages inked, or these 2 panels inked. So I figured I just finish it, because I think the idea is going to end up being every time I stream, it's going to be whatever I can get done on that page, and then I'll try and get it done. I don't think we're going to have multiple streams for different pages. So that's page 1. So Audrey and Dad, they're at the entrance to a cave. Dad's like, I don't know, looks really dark and creepy. And then let's go in there, because Dad's an idiot. So let's get to page 2. So I've talked about this being a stream of consciousness, and it's really just going to be like day to day. You're going to see me trying to brainstorm on the spot. Where are we going? Are we going to be able to fit a joke in, or what's the big twist, or whatever? I have no idea. And this is so out of my comfort zone. Generally, when I work, I sit and have a cup of coffee, and I've got some mellow music in the background that doesn't have any words to it, and I just kind of zone out, and I've got a little notepad, and I just start writing. And I don't start working on the computer for finished artwork until the entire story is done, because it's so hard for me to work any other way. That's how I've been able to get projects done, is by doing that the last few years. So that's out of my comfort zone. The other part of being out of my comfort zone is I'm drawing kind of in front of people, even though I can't see people, or maybe they're watching it afterwards. It's something I don't do very often. It's not that I haven't, but it's part of the reason I don't even like taking commissions at like conventions and stuff. I don't like drawing at conventions. Yeah, that's just not, it just never feels right to me. I know a lot of artists are at home drawing and stuff like that, and so you'll see a lot of people drawing where you're walking through an artist alley. That's not me. I actually like to try and engage with people and stuff, and I don't feel comfortable just sitting there drawing. So everything about this is me trying to switch it up and see what happens. Could be a total failure. Who knows? I hope not. So we've got this blank canvas here. So I also, spoilers, I've pretty much got this. I know what we're doing on this page. I had started working on it before. If you watched the video from page one, I had mentioned I had already done that page before. That was the second time I drew that. And I had written the second page and I had started drawing it in Procreate. And I still want to go in that same direction. So we're going to be going from what I had there. Maybe we'll change a few things, but I think I'm going to pretty much keep it the same. And I keep saying we, and I'm saying we because, hey, I'd love to get your suggestions if you're watching. If you want to chat, hey, you should do this in the story, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean I'm going to take your suggestion or anything, but hey, try it out. I want this to be somewhat collaborative. So let's get started. So we've got our blank page here. I have a template for the Slackmatic comics that I've set up as a material in Clip Studio. So I just click this window, which pops up all these different templates for different layouts. This top one here says Slackmatic, and so I just drag that over to here, and bam, all my panels are ready to go. Frames ready. Of course, I'm gonna have to split them up and stuff like that, but it gets it where I need to go. And the page I'm using is the it's the geez. Now let me make sure I've got the name right. It's the oh yeah, I use the Shueisha template, which is a manga template. They're the ones who publish Shonen Jump and stuff like that. And so what I've built this layout for is I use that as the base template, and then you can see this kind of green line going along the edge here. Let's see, let's get the red. A green line that goes along the edge like that. That's the safety area for a manga page, because manga is printed in lots of different formats and dimensions, and that way the artists know that they're all of their lettering and stuff, the important stuff, is going to be seen in all of those different versions, whether it's like the weekly magazine or the tankobon or whatever. Funnily enough, this safety area is super close to the same dimensions as a standard comic book page. So it's, what is it? I think it's like 9.5 by 14.5 or 14 or something like that. Used to be 10 by 15. It was way easier. And this is quite a bit smaller than 10 by 15 or whatever, but it's the same dimensions. I think it's only off by maybe like 1/8 of an inch if I put it in there. So this works really well. So, all right. So let's start. I know I've got to split this panel up here, and I'm gonna go off on my pencils from the Procreate drawing that I did. There it is. All right, yeah, so those bottom two panels are going to stay the same, but this top one's going to get split in half. That's it for that. And now let's add the lettering. I've got quite a bit of lettering in this, quite a bit of dialogue in this this page. Oh, come on. And I'm going to try and get this. This is going to be pretty similar to what I had in Procreate. All right, so Audrey's going to be saying, "What? You want to go in there?" Dad's going to say, "Sure." Let's make that a little bigger. When you're doing lettering and fonts in Clip Studio, if you do just if you have to do another section of dialogue, if you do it close enough to the other one, it'll keep it on the same layer, which will make doing your balloons easier. All right. Yeah, so he says, sure. What's the worst that could happen? That's probably some foreshadowing, but I don't know. So now in this panel, Audrey is going to go through all the things that she thinks could happen. These are the parts of streaming comic creation that I know this is going to be the hardest part to like converse and stuff during. And I'm the most curious as to how uh, tomorrow will go with page 3, if I can do it tomorrow. Because I have no real clue where it's going. And we're going to do that live. But I'm going to think about it some today so I can at least have something to start with. Hmm. Uh, yeah, that position looks pretty good. So Audrey's saying, gee, I don't know. We could get lost, fall down a hole, die in a cave in, get attacked by a bear. It's really dangerous. And those would be pretty much all of my sentiments. I'm a somewhat adventurous person, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'd go into a mysterious hole in the side of a mountain. You know, I probably would. I really probably would. because I think I have before. I take it back. But as an adult, I definitely think more like Audrey. So in this panel, Dad, we had the second or the third panel where Audrey's all about what she's saying could happen, and Dad's going to be talking about everything he thinks could happen, which is all fun stuff to him. Oh, this is a long one I wrote. So when I'm typing out dialogue on Clip Studio in my Cintiq, if you click on this little keyboard icon, it pops up with the keyboard on your screen, which I mean you can see, or no, maybe you can't. No, it doesn't look. You guys can't see it, but it pops up a keyboard on screen, and I'm just typing in the words. It would be way faster for me to go to the actual because I know how to type. It'd be way faster for me to get on the actual laptop and type it out. But I've gotten used to doing it this way. But I guess it is a little slower. Man, this one I'm gonna have to rearrange this one a little bit. It's taking up a lot of the panel. Let's bulb that up. Let's bulb that up. Let's get this back over here. I still spell that right? Come on. Oh. Bulb that up. Let's see, I might just move this up a little more. Yeah. That's probably good. All right. So we got the dialogue written. All right. So here's what I've got Dad saying. So Audrey goes through all that dangerous stuff, and then Dad says, "Why are you always so negative? We could also find pirate's treasure or a secret alien base. Maybe we find an old cookie tin when we open it. Let's see. Maybe find an old cookie tin, and when we open it, there's a genie inside who grants wishes, and we wish for pirate treasure in an alien base. Possibilities are endless." This is a that stupid joke. Uh, that joke's a play on a Simpsons episode where Homer's at Mr. Burns' house and or at his mansion, and Homer goes, "What are you gonna do? You're gonna release the dogs, or release the bees, or release the dogs, and when they bark bees out of their mouth." And that's probably what I was thinking of when I wrote that last part. All right, let's get the balloons all around this dialogue. And then we'll be ready to start inking. Looks good. And I'm using the curve balloon. They've got several different options for balloons in Clip Studio. And for a long time, I used the rounded balloon. Let me show you what the rounded balloon looks like real fast. So the rounded balloon is like that. And after a while, I realized it was just a little too. It was a little too perfect for me, and I wanted the balloons to look more hand drawn. Now I could just hand draw them and like go behind, but this is fine. I think I've gotten good enough at using the curved balloon to where I'm pretty happy with it. And what I like about it is so it uses all these different anchor points. And then I can select the objects to highlight all these, and then I can get them exactly where I want them on the balloon. With the rounded balloon, you're kind of stuck to that round shape, and you can get some variation and stuff like that in there, but it just not enough. And I am a fan of manga style word balloons anyway, so I play around with that a little bit, where I try and get them to look a little manga-esque. Other favorite word balloons? Probably Dave Sim with Cerebus. Kind of a controversial figure now. He wasn't so much when I was growing up, though. but definitely a master of his craft, master of lettering. Um, the first independent creator to make it to 300 issues. That's now been surpassed by Todd McFarlane. I'm going to call some bullshit on that, but I guess other people don't see it that way. All right. Yeah, sir. This is not the exciting part of making comics. I don't know if there is an exciting part. I'm pretty sure the people that are going to check out these videos and check out these streams are going to be a pretty niche audience. I've watched some streams of people like ink and draw and stuff like that before. It's usually something I watch when I'm drawing. So that'd be really cool if people started watching me draw while they're drawing and we're all just kind of drawing together. All right. So the dialogue's up. Man, this is a busy this fourth panel. It is a busy panel. I think I'm gonna keep it that way. Talking about manga, I think it's something I think about when we look at American comics, and I hear people talk about making American comics, and oh, you've got to make everything fit, and it's got to look great, and blah 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 blah, and then I'll go through and I'll look at just a ton of like manga that drawn by people that are considered masters. Like I've been reading like 20th Century Boys and stuff lately, and they'll have whole panels that are just full of dialogue with maybe a mouth down at the bottom and stuff like that. And then I hear a lot of professional letterers. They talk about how important the balloon tail is and stuff like that. And then you look at manga and there's like sometimes there aren't even balloon tails and you still know who's talking. So I think that's just I don't think the Japanese dumb down their they don't dumb down the art form as much as Americans do for the audience, which is funny because they clearly have more of an audience than the American comics do in America. You know? And for the most part, I'd say probably well deserved. And we talk about me and my buddy Levi. We talk about that on our YouTube show sometimes. That I read lately primarily manga. And it's not because I necessarily prefer manga over American comics. I just love all kinds of comics, so it doesn't really matter. But it's easy for me to find manga. I can find it anywhere. And I go to a bookstore, and there's I don't know, 2 to 3 giant rows of manga, maybe 2 little sections of American comics. They might have like 3 shelves for Marvel, a few shelves for DC, some indie books, maybe some fancy books drawn in quarterly or Image, of course. Probably a lot more Image than anything. So, I'm gonna get rid of her hand here. I don't like it. Yeah, so why would I not read a bunch of manga when that's the comics I can get a hold of. So, all right, let's do a layer underneath that for backgrounds. We're going to draw this door again. I'm just trying to figure out what a good size would be. That works. I'm really not going to draw any more than that of the door. I can wing that when I get to inking. Let's see. I swear, I always get the position of yours wrong. Or it looks weird to me the first time I draw them, and then I always reposition them for a character I've been drawing for I don't know how long. I did this. I do this all the time. I did this yesterday though. Always drawing Dad's head way too big. That looks alright. Let's do a little edge of the door over here too. And we'll just do a bunch of, it'll be rocks and shit over there. These probably all look like scribbles to anybody, and that's because they are. I like to do a lot of the work of the drawing in the inking. I think it makes it a little livelier, and I would do that when I work digitally or traditionally. My pencils have always been just chicken scratch almost. When I was when I think I was like 18 or 19. I know I was a teenager. I just moved to the Charlotte area. Oh, one of the cartoonists in the area, who I had known before I moved here. You see, kids, back in the '90s, we would trade comics all over the country, and so you'd meet a bunch of people all over the place, and this is pretty much. I mean, we had the internet, but it wasn't what it is today. There's no social media or anything like that, and so you were trading comics with people. Um, through these mail order kind of magazines that would have reviews of comics. Um, you would send your comics in and get them reviewed, and they'd list your address and stuff, and then people would find you. It was really cool. The one that I subscribed to and was my favorite was Small Press Comics Explosion, which was that was put together by a gentleman named Tim Corrigan. Sadly, passed away a few years ago, but he did a lot. I mean, a lot for the small press comics community, and that's where I met ton of people that I still know to this day. Anyway, I got off track. So I had come in contact with the guy um, named his name was Will Petrie. Haven't talked to him in a while or run into him, but he still does shows sometimes. He doesn't really do comics anymore, but him and his wife do some craft stuff. But still very much in like kind of a nerd pop culture vein. It's cool stuff. And of course, I'm getting a phone call. Let me let them know. There we go. Exciting stuff. Uh, anyway, oh yeah. So met Will Petrie, and we struck up a friendship and stuff like that. And really, at the time, there weren't a huge amount of cartoonists that I had met in Charlotte, and I just moved here and I didn't know anybody. So we struck up a friendship, and we decided to collaborate on a comic with his characters and my characters. At the time, I was doing a series called Wemmick and Ted, which is honestly kind of similar to what I'm doing now. Definitely like zany misadventure kind of stuff. Um, but still pretty different. But anyway, so we decided to do it in two chapters. I can't remember. I think we might have been doing the first chapter Yeah, we were doing the first chapter for like an anthology, um, and we decided I'd pretty much write it. I think we kind of co-wrote it, but I definitely scripted it and stuff like that. And I'd pencil it and he would ink it. And I handed him the 8 pages for that story, and really not even. I really wasn't even thinking about it. Um, and because I was penciling how I pencil, which is like this, super, just super loose, because I do a lot of the drawing and the inking and stuff like that. Wasn't even thinking about somebody else um, having to make heads or tails uh, from my drawings, and just gave him the loosest freaking pencils in the world. And I remember him telling me, like, "Man, you barely gave me breakdowns. They were they were so loose." Uh, yeah, but these pencils were so loose, and at first I was kind of insulted. I was just I was just a kid or whatever, and then I kind of looked back on it and was like, "Oh man, you're right. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking." And so we ended up expanding that story to a second chapter, and then put it out as our own book. And when we wrote the second chapter, and I penciled that, I penciled it much tighter, and he was much happier with what he got. And so, and then a little further down the road, I worked with my best friend Nathan, uh, actually on the original Slackmatic. The original Slackmatic was really like, ah man, it's kind of like stupid stoner humor. But we both wrote the stories for it, and let's see, we both wrote the stories for it, and I penciled and he inked, and he had never really inked comics before. Well, he had never inked comics before. He had never done any comics before. I really kind of bullied him into doing it, and was like, dude, we got to do this. We've been friends forever, and like this will be great. And so we both wrote it and everything. And like I said, I penciled and he inked, and I'd give him pretty tight pencils when we did it that way. And then that series really it morphed into Kitty Litter, which was a web comic that I did for years. And then essentially Kitty Litter morphed into kind of another version of Kitty Litter, which then morphed into like a diary comic, which then morphed back into a version of Kitty Litter. I've been pretty much doing the same comic since like 1998. It just morphs into different slight different variations. Okay. So this is penciled. It's penciled enough. So I drop the opacity on these pencil layers. We're going to make a layer above that. That's going to be our inking layer. Let's get some vape action. All right. Let's see how fast we can ink this. Kind of felt like this page was taking a long time, but honestly, really not. I think we're at like 45 minutes. I didn't even start working on it till probably 5 minutes in. We're already inking. But let's be fair, this one was completely planned out. Just kind of messing around with this face. I love drawing faces. People don't know. That's my favorite. I could just draw faces all day. Faces and monsters. Should have been the name of my comic. Faces and monsters. All right, we're going to keep that hair. I'm going to keep that hair. I keep saying we. I guess just because, the royal we, as a character from my favorite movie in the world would say. Yeah, okay, let's fill this in. Yeah, anyway, what I was saying about this hair, I want to keep this like a solid line because I'm actually going to go in through once I get this door drawn in like that. I'm going to fill this with black. And then I'm going to cut in the hair. In the hair. I'm going to cut in the hair. I'm going to cut in here to make this hair look more hair-like. I always give Audrey these really dark shadows in her hair. Along these sections. Like along the side of her face and stuff like that. you'll see me switch back and forth on Clip Studio. You got these boxes over here, and you've got the black is your foreground color, so that's just that ink, and then the white, and some brushes you'll have that secondary color, and then you've got no color. So when you're seeing me put in these like the hair, like with that, it's actually a button I've assigned to the Wacom remote. It's just a button that switches it to that eraser tool, but it keeps the brush the same. Like I'm still using the real G pen. So like that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm not actually, like, none of this is actually white. It is, I'm erasing this black away. Let's put the balloon tail on. Yeah. Mm. I forgot I've been in this story. I made the heart on her shirt black. Also, quick tip for Clip Studio. I don't know if anybody's noticed. Whenever I'm using the fill tool, I'll turn off like all these layers to use it. The reason I do that is if you do the bucket tool, there's an option for refer other layers, and I've used that since Clip Studio. Since I've been using Clip Studio, and I discovered refer other layers. I've been using that option, and so what that does is when you're using the fill tool, it refers every single layer that you have on this file. And the way like some other programs work, like even Procreate, you can refer a layer, but you can only do one at a time, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me. But as far as I know, you can only reference one layer. But in Clip Studio, you can reference every single layer. So I turned the sketch layer off because if I filled it with all those lines with the red and blue and stuff like that, it wouldn't work. And when you're just working for black and white like I'm doing right now, it's still helpful, but it's not as helpful. Where it's insanely helpful is coloring. When you're laying down flats for coloring, and you can reference every single layer, I cannot express how much quicker it is. Speaking of fill, like filling in Dad's mouth right there, I didn't use the fill tool, and that goes back. If you watch the video from yesterday, I'm gonna try my best not to like constantly rehash everything every time I do a video, but Even though I work digitally, I like my work to have a more traditional feel and a more lived in feel. And so, depending on a area, like if it's a small area like Dad's mouth that I got to fill in with black, I'll just uh, I'll just do it by scribbling like that. Ugh, that hand looks goddamn awful. All right, I think the problem is that's much better. I like even the so what I'm looking at like on my laptop, which is right here. Um, I'm looking at the same thing as I am on my Cintiq, and you'll see me like look over kind of right at the camera, and it's because the laptop screen is of course it's much smaller than the 24-inch Cintiq that I'm using, and sometimes it helps to see what you're drawing smaller, and I will look over there for reference a lot to see. I don't know, it just gives me another perspective. Sometimes I've almost felt like I'll look at the laptop more than I look at the Cintiq, which is it's really like using like an old school Wacom tablet before the ones without out screens, the Intuoses. Which I had one of those too. That wasn't technically my first foray into digital art because I had started coloring. It started coloring in Photoshop. Just another fucking terrible hand. I'd started coloring in Photoshop, so that was my first real foray into digital art. Back then I was just coloring with a mouse, which was super awkward. But you didn't really know any better. Even the Wacom Intuoses back then, I mean they were kind of cost prohibitive. Actually, kind of like that. But but yeah, no. So I had colored with man. I swear to God, my phone is blowing up. I need to start putting it in airplane mode when I'm when I'm streaming. Uh, um, so I had my first real like so I count coloring in Photoshop the first time I was really doing digital work. But real true like I'm drawing everything digitally. It was with a Wacom Intuos. Wacom Intuos Pro 3, I think, is what it was called. I think there's people still out there using that exact model. It was a pretty. Not that the Intuos 4 or the ones they have now are worse or anything, but I've definitely seen posts from people talking about still using their threes or they missed their Intuos 3 and man, I loved it. I really did. It um, had a great feel when you were drawing on it and everything, and which so does a Cintiq. I I prefer drawing on this versus the iPad, and I might be in the minority for that too. Recently, I don't know, but yeah, it was great. And then one of my cats peed on it. I was so fucking pissed. And it just did not work after that. All right. Well, that's nice. Again, phone blowing up. Well, that was a good thing. That was another a creator I met this weekend posting some comics we traded on their stories on Instagram. This weekend, this past weekend, the I was at the inaugural Eddie P. Comic Con in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. It is the furthest comic convention I have done in I don't even know how long. The last one I would have traveled that far for um, would have been space in Columbus, and I don't think I've even done space since I'm just 2005 maybe 2006 7 something like that. Trying to see where this eye shine's coming from. Yeah, so this weekend, yeah, me and Levi, we drove up to West Mifflin, which is the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania. Drove up there Friday. Show was Saturday. And it was an amazing time. Truly amazing time. Um, all right. I'm trying to decide if I like this hand or not. But anyway, yeah, no, we had a great time at Eddie Pecan, and Ed Piscor's family. This was all in memory of Ed Piscor, uh, who who passed away back in April, and his family. They'd never put on comic conventions or anything, and just put on an amazing event. An amazing event. Really, really small show. Of course, it was in a in a like firefighters hall. Um, but it was great. Um, and I love small shows like this. I just think I think the camaraderie between artists is so much better at shows like that. Um, and I'll tell you what I did. Our big show every year is Heroes Convention. I live in uh, I don't live in Charlotte, but I live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and that's our big show, and it's expensive, and 3 days, and it's the big one. Um, and I keep doing that show, and I'll probably, maybe do it I'm probably gonna do it next year, and I like it. I'm not trying to bash it. I have fun there, but I think in general, um, people that go to that show now, they're just not looking for what I do, and that's not that's not their fault, that they're not digging this. But I think people that go to that show, it's very much like a pop culture. It's a pop culture show now. Well, I don't even want to say that because it's still very much about the comics. It's still very much about the comics, but you'll see a lot of artist alley stuff in there. You'll see elf ears and soap and fudge and just go to Instagram and see my story, Artist Alley of the Damned, which is very much um, a riff on all of all of that culture and stuff like that. Satire. That's what I was trying to say. It's a satire. Um, and so in 3 days at Heroes, You know, I've done that show. I don't know. I don't know how many times I've done that show. I've done it quite a few times. I've never done super great. I still keep going back and I keep doing it because it's just, you know, it's FOMO, fear of missing out. Um, it's right where I live, and it's like, nah, I got to do it. I got to do it. And this year was the best sales that I ever had, and it was miserable. It was a miserable amount of sales. Um, and so to go back to Eddie Pecan, 6 hour show, I almost doubled the amount of sales um, at that show versus a 3 day show um, in Heroes. And honestly, when you're doing shows and you look at all the different expenses that you have, of course, you know the table is an expense, and then if you have to travel and stuff like that, it's hard to make actual money at these things. Um, Eddie Pecan, for me driving um, from Charlotte and having to have a hotel for 2 nights. The table was actually very very reasonable. It was real cheap. Um, but when you take all the other stuff into effect, it was not cheap. Um, but I probably still at least broke even um, for Eddie Pecan. At least um, to the same extent that I did at Heroes, and I live there. I mean, just for parking at Heroes Con is, I mean, it's $75 for the 3 days. It's $25 a day. And Levi will give me shit because I go to the more expensive parking garage because it's closer, and I get it. That's my fault. I'm fine paying for the convenience, but it's still, even if I went to a cheaper one, it'd still be a sizable expense. So anyway, not bashing any show. Heroes is extremely well run. The people there are great. Um, I think it's more about is what I'm doing fitting the audience there, which is not their problem and not their fault. But I do much better at a show like the Eddie P show. I do much better at a show like Fluke in Athens, Georgia. Um, and I think the reason is because uh, when people are going to shows, smaller indie shows like that, like a Fluke or Queen City Zine Fest, which is my next show coming up in about a month. Which another sidebar upon sidebars. I'm hoping that I can wrap up whatever this story is. I'm hoping I can wrap this up within the next 3 to 4 weeks to get a sizable book and to send that off and get it printed. I'm actually probably going to put it together myself, but at least get the guts and everything printed, and then I'll fold and staple and trim everything. But I'm hoping that's what this will be, and then I will debut it at Queen City Zine Fest. But when people go to shows like a Queen City Zine Fest or Fluke or Eddie Pecan, any of these, they are going to find new stuff. And comic conventions, you used to get that a lot. Like when I would do Heroes back in the late 90s and early 2000s, you would get people um, uh, like, I love coming to shows to look for new stuff. And now you get people coming to um, get signatures uh, or get a photo with somebody or cosplay. And the comics are very much second, even at a show like Heroes, which is comic centric. And I hear that, and I agree with it. It is, but the fact of the matter is, most of the people that are coming, they're still into the Marvel movies and all of that stuff. So that audience is really kind of shifted. I'm a little torn about it, I guess, but I don't know. Then again, I also think people are more receptive to comics than ever before. Um, and that has a lot to do with manga and webtoons and stuff like that. All right, so I've got to do something with these backgrounds. I do not want to leave these two panels white. And I also don't want to make them black. Let's see, before I do that, let's put the tones. So I made a layer underneath the inks. I'm going to put the tones up here for the cave or the mountain, whatever the side of this is. And this brush that I'm using is it's from True Grit Texture Supply. And it's actually a brush. Let's see. I'm trying. Man, I cannot remember. I keep meaning to look this up. I cannot remember the name of this brush set. But it's actually a brush set that is used to make uh, old school comics coloring. And actually, if you look at the bar here left, it's got yellow, it's got magenta, it's got cyan, and then the black, which is so old comics. I mean, anything printed is printed in CMYK, which are those four colors put together. So True Grit Texture Supply, they've got this pack where you can blend all these and make different colors and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. But the black brushes that they have, they've got a 10 and a 20% dot brush, and I think it just works really good. Now, Clip Studio has all of like they have tones built in to Clip Studio. I use them sometimes, but the main reason I don't use them is because uh, they confuse the fuck out of me. And because you can get you get super detailed um, into what these brushes can do, and and it's real easy to kind of get lost in the sauce with their tones engine. And what you're trying to avoid with tones, why using those zipatone dots and everything is so scary for print, is you'll end up with these moire patterns, um, which I can probably, like right there. I don't know if it'll show up on the actual video or whatever, but what I'm looking at right now, like with the tones in the background, they're moiré, and it turns into these kind of like this square design and stuff. And you don't want that in print. You want it to just look gray um, when it's in print. You're just looking for shades of gray. That horrible those horrible movies. Um, and I swear to God, every time I use the actual built-in Clip Studio ones, and I start preparing for print. I did this with my book Not Nomicon. I originally had them all as the Clip Studio dots, and when I started going to prepare them for print, and I was looking at the files, I was unconvinced that they were not gonna just moire all over the place. And so I changed them all to just basic gray tones, which now with most digital printing and stuff like that, you can do like no problem, and it looks fine, and it came out great, and I didn't have to worry about the moire effect or anything. Yeah, so I ended up just doing this kind of weird. It's not like manga speed lines. I didn't really want to do manga speed lines because I already did that on this first page at the bottom here. And I love manga speed lines, but it just didn't look. I don't know. This is a little different. I'm just freehanding this and throwing some lines in. You see, you'll see Junji Ito kind of play around with something like this. Of course, he's way better than me at doing that. But I don't know. I've done this kind of effect for backgrounds for years, but I have noticed that he does some stuff like that. So if we've got that for that one. So I feel like we for Dad. So Audrey's all, she's freaking out. She's you know being the cautious one. I think that background with those lines, I kind of makes you feel that anxiety and stuff. So if I'm gonna just do a design for this last panel, I want it to feel the opposite of that. So what is that? It's kind of a light and a kind of maybe a almost fluffy line. That makes sense. What about like stars? Yeah, I don't know if that works. So I don't have a lot of room to play with for this last one. Oh, you know what? Here. What about this? Yep. I don't know why, but this is it. Are we done? Not quite. I'm putting page numbers on this one. I put the 1 down here. So obviously this is page 2. Let's move this all the way to the top. So we're actually moving this this font up above what is the frames. And then just drew a little line like that. And then I'm doing a layer under the 2. And we're actually making that white because we're erasing. Well, we're not actually erasing. We're actually filling in white above those lines down in the frames. And then I'm marking out the borders there with the white to make it kind of meld together there. All right, what am I missing? Oh, you know what? I am missing some tones here. I forgot I put tone on the crust of the pizza on Dad's shirt. These pepperonis. Well, that is really bad moire right there. All right, that's it. Day 2, page 2. I'm done. Done with this page. How long? Hour and a half. Hour and a half doing this. So I'm gonna count that as a win. Most likely tomorrow I'm gonna stream again, and we're gonna see where page 3 takes us. Maybe I do want this to be as stream as consciousness as possible. So I think it's gonna be one of those things where day to day I'm thinking about it throughout the day, but not really like putting anything down on paper or the screen or whatever, and then we just kind of dive in when we get to it. So pretty sure I'm gonna have some time tomorrow to do this. We'll see. I'm gonna do my best. Should probably be around the same time, but I don't know. I don't know. But thanks anybody who checked it out. I'm streaming this on Twitch, obviously, but I'm gonna be putting this video up on the on the YouTube page at Comics in the Making. Definitely go check that out. We got lots of other videos. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, go check out the Twitch channel. Go follow me there, and you can watch the stream on there. It's twitch.tv/slackmatic_comics. And you can see these as I do them. And with that being said, I'm going to end this stream, and I'll see you later.